Hello and thanks for checking out ChartGuys.com. We're proud to be one of the most successful technical analysis communities online, teaching you the skills to become a more confident, effective, and informed trader. Join our community of hundreds of analysts worldwide working together to learn the charts, generate profit, and achieve financial independence. For access to daily live chart analysis and market coverage, a thriving chat community, along with dozens of hours of exclusive educational materials. We look forward to seeing you. Let's check out some charts. Hey everyone, checking in on Canadian MJ. I'm going to put out a market video after this, so if you're interested in the market overall, check that out. First off, let's talk about correlations, because correlations are worth noting, but they are always changing. And when I mean always, I mean even intraday they're changing. So even just in the cryptocurrency space, every single day, I'm determining which coin I'm trading. They all correlate very strong together, but there's little minute differences on which coin is correlating stronger with what that changes, a few days at a time. And that determines on what I'm trading. And I'm comparing it multiple charts to each other. So I'm doing that constantly in the market as well. Whenever the S&P 500 is bullish on the day, I'm looking for bull plays on individual names. Whenever it's bearish, I'm looking at bearish on the plays because of the overall correlation. But again, it's not set in stone and it's always shifting. What changes correlations? The biggest change in correlation is when volume comes in. And of course, news is one of the biggest reasons that volume comes in. So by default, news coming out with volume coming with it will break correlations. But essentially, volume is what breaks correlations. So what we have playing out right now is the market is showing weakness. The S&P 500 dumped down to lower lows. This is extremely bearish. The fact that we didn't form an equilibrium pattern and form a higher low and stay in this tightening range tells us this dump is not over yet. And there is still some downside to come here. And we have no idea how much bloodshed we're going to see and how far it's going to go down. But it's obviously a lower high and a lower low, keeping the bears in full control and closing at the low of the day with a red Marubozu candlestick indicating the bears controlled the entirety of the day. So that's where we stand in the markets. And again, look for the video for more details on that. But with regards to the Canadian MJ space, there's a few different factors in what changes correlations. Again, volume is number one. The bounce in Canadian MJ started a day early. It started on February 5th. That's when the bull money started showing up. And then the bull money continued into the 6th, and then with the gap up open on the 7th. And you can see SPY, the bounce didn't start until February 6th. So again, I want to make it very clear. It's not a direct correlation. If we drop 1% in the market, that doesn't mean we're going to drop 1% in these individual names. Another factor is market makers in Canada. They can do whatever they want in terms of no pre-market activity to dictate where we open. The market makers are saying, okay, here's where the orders are coming in. They can open it literally wherever they want. So that is a big factor as well. The fact that we saw the gap up open on the 7th, wasn't correlating with the market at all in terms of any kind of gap up open there. So just there are little details and little things that will break the correlation. But again, the correlation is still there. Look at the 5-minute time frame. This is today's trading action starting right here with weed in the candlesticks, and then the background here is the S&P 500. So a clear downtrend. Look at the bounce from the low of the day for the markets. That was the low of the day right there for WEED. We saw the bounce follow through. We saw the top of the bounce at the same time. We saw it fade back down, and then the markets dumped at the end of the day. And thankful for the bulls here in the Canadian MJ space, we didn't correlate and see that dump as well. So again, just looking at the 5-minute action, you can say, okay, we clearly correlated to the market on a small term time frame. Look at even just the individual candlesticks. 2 green candlesticks, 2 green candlesticks, another 2, another 2. So it's very clearly still there on a shorter term time frame, but it's just not on a grand scale. So is it important to watch the S&P 500? Absolutely. There are a lot of tools that you can use and little clues that you can gain by doing it, but just keep the assumption and the knowledge that it is always going to be constantly changing. There's going to be little fluctuations. It's not set in stone, but it is a useful tool to use in your trading. So let's get out of that and let's get over now and talk about Canadian MJ. So I covered my short today. I covered half of my position yesterday, entered at 33.50, went bearish in a double position, took half of it the first day. I exited today because I exited at 31.75. Had I known the market was going to dump at the end of the day, I probably would have held on a little bit longer. But honestly, it was liquidity, and the liquidity was so low in MJX today. It's the lowest volume day we've seen in weeks, and the space between the bid and the ask. When you have low liquidity, you have space between the bid and the ask. And there were times during the day where it was literally thousands of dollars of difference in terms of the profit that I would see, whether I sold at the bid or sold at the ask. So it wasn't a favorable environment that, you know, had me comfortable to say, oh, I'll just click a button and get a good fill. If it were very liquid, that would be the case. But because it was not liquid, you know, it's a difference between a % or two in terms of where I could get filled. So I chose my spot, exited, locked in that profit, and wanted to head into tomorrow with a clean slate. So I'm back to all cash. The bears still have momentum. We're closing at the low of the day here on MJX. The only good thing for the bulls is that it's declining volume. And of course, the fact that we didn't dump down to lower lows with the overall market. So we have our low, we have our high of the bounce, and now we're looking for a higher low. A red flag would be increasing bear volume on the daily time frame. If we see increasing bear volume on this pullback, we know the odds of forming a daily higher low will decrease. So the bulls, to change this trend, need a higher low and a higher high. The way we are positioned, it could play out, absolutely. If the market is continuing to dump and we see fear and 3% dump days, it's going to be a lot harder for the bulls to see any kind of follow through in action. But if we pull back in a contained manner and form our higher low, and then the market sees a significant bounce again and we get some bullish correlation, it is possible that it could happen. So just want to keep that in mind. And again, the main point for me, why the daily chart looks more bullish for Canadian MJ, is more money came in and bought the dip in Canadian MJ than it did in the market as a whole. So WEED on the daily time frame, same thing. Didn't close as near to the low of the day. Very low bear volume day. And we're looking for the potential of an equilibrium pattern on the daily time frame forming. I anticipated that would happen in SPY, and the fact that it didn't is certainly very bearish. So we have our low, we have our high of the bounce, and the bulls are looking for a higher low. We're not confident it's formed just yet. We need a bullish reversal candlestick. We need the hourly time frame to start giving us higher lows and higher highs, and it's not there yet. So support is 26.31, and then we just have psychological levels down to 24.80, which was the low of the 6th. So patiently waiting for a higher low on the daily, and the closer we get down towards our recent low of 20.85, the less risk there is on an entry. So let's say we drop down to 23 and I make an entry for a long position looking for a daily higher low. I put my stop under 20.85 and I exit out. Whereas if I enter right now in that same scenario, we could still pull back multiple percent, even 5+%, and still be looking for our higher low. So very patient at this point, waiting for the momentum to shift to have us feel confident that our daily higher low is forming, and I'm going to require some extra convincing because of the market overall. ACB, let's look at WEED hourly lower highs as well. So here's our top of the bounce, then we started consolidating and forming some lower highs and lower lows. So the bulls have to break the lower high, lower low hourly pattern for us to even think that our daily higher low is forming. ACB inside bar. So ACB had earnings, and you might think, wow, ACB had good earnings, but you're not going to break correlation to the sector unless you have a really good reason to for money to pour in. And we didn't see that happen. We saw a slight bullish correlation, meaning ACB was the strongest of the big three today, and it held up. It held the low of yesterday and gave us a daily inside bar. So on some small scale comparisons, it definitely did see beneficial action because of the earnings report, but it's not going to escape the sector unless there was a reason to convince a lot of money to be buying. So support is 1081 and resistance is 1207. It is the most bullish of the big three right now because it did not break the low of yesterday. It's as simple as that. If we break the inside bar bearish, we're going to look to pull back and form a higher low similar to what we're looking at on these other names. APH on the daily also formed an inside bar, so didn't need earnings to do that. Support is 1543. And we held that low by 6 cents, and resistance of the inside bar is 1679. Both favor a bear break by where we close at the end of the day, but it hasn't happened yet. If we get the bear break, we look for the higher low on the daily compared to 1241, our key support level. And so it's a different setup for APH and ACB than it is for WEED due to the fact that we already hit that lower low on the daily. Not significantly, but again, odds favor ACB and APH to follow along and get that break tomorrow for the bears, but we'll have to see if that's how it plays out. MJN. So MJN is the most bullish of the big three, and it's not even a part of the big three, but let's call it the big four. So we've got our higher low trying to form now. It's an inside bar as well, so still have to be watching the range of 872 and 966. But look at the end of the day action on the hourly chart. Increasing bull volume and 4 green hours in a row. Nobody else had anywhere near as similar action. We did have some bull action there on APH. but it wasn't comparable. So they saw the first 3 green hours there at the end of the day, but ended on a bearish note, whereas MJN saw powerful 3 hours and ended on a bullish note. So that's definitely worth noting and keeping an eye on. And just looking at the inside bars, you can say it favors a bull break of the inside bar for MJN comparative to APH and ACB. All of that being said, I find it hard to imagine that MJN is going to be able to see any significant gains if these other big names continue to consolidate and MJX pulls back as well. It's just something to note for now. And if I were in a bullish position in any of these names, I would be most comfortable if I were currently in MJN. So that's where we stand as we head into tomorrow. Again, I'm being very patient. I'm in no rush to enter anything. There is plenty of trading opportunity out there, whether it's cryptocurrency or the volatility in the S&P 500 trading leveraged ETFs. There's just all kinds of stuff going on, and I'll be back to Canadian MJ once I get a favorable setup that tells me that the risk to reward of my entry will be in a favorable position. I'm fine playing it bullish or bearish, depending on whatever we get. But as of where we stand right now, need a little bit more clarity before I am in a comfortable spot. And that's because we're right in the middle of our range of the bounce. So our low of the dump and our high of the bounce, we're right in the middle there. So kind of in no man's land in terms of where we're hanging out next to support and resistance on these names. So very patient. We'll see if the bulls can form this daily high or low. If not tomorrow, which I would doubt, I would say probably Monday or Tuesday is when the bulls, Monday is probably the day when the bulls would love to see that high or low form on the daily chart. We'll continue checking back in, and I hope you have a great rest of your night.